So welcome everyone. We're going to be going through the What's New video for Inventor and Vault 2023. If you haven't spoken to me before, my name is Jason Kelly. I'm an application specialist here at Symmetry. Obviously, we are going to be going through what's new. We've got quite a bit of information to cover. So we're going to be going through what's new in Inventor and what's new in Vault. We'll start off with the Inventor side, and then we'll move on to Vault in the second part of it. But if you do have any questions, we'll try and get to them at the end. That's for both topics. We won't stop halfway. So just pop your questions in the chat window, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so as I mentioned, my name is Jason Kelly. I've got a background in Inventor and Vault for about 4 or 5 years now. If you attended last year's webinar, I've done the 2022 side as well. So just going to go through a little bit of an agenda about what we're going to run through today. And as I mentioned, we're going to start off in the Inventor environment. Okay, so we'll have a look at all the main tools that are available in the new 2023 release. Obviously, we're not going to have a chance to go through every single new feature or new tool that is available. If you do want to go into that detail, I'll show you where you can access that in the software in the next couple of slides. And also, if you take a look at our Symmetry UK YouTube channel, then you should be able to, there's some videos on there about what's new in Inventor and what's new in Vault with a bit more further breakdown. Okay, so obviously from an Inventor side, we'll start off with kind of a few of the smaller tools that they've introduced. And then towards the end of the first part of the session, we'll look at the connection with Autodesk Inventor and obviously the other Autodesk products, including Fusion and Revit, which is where this release has been kind of mainly themed and mainly aimed around. Okay, especially the data exchange within Revit. We'll then move on. Hopefully, we'll split it roughly half and half, and then we'll move into the Vault environment. And again, we'll start off with some of the smaller tools and the smaller features that are available, and then we'll look at the markups, the Vault markups, and the new Vault gateway, which I know has taken kind of quite a big up hit. We've had a lot of conversations already with a lot of you about this, so we'll try and get as much time on that, and then, as I say, at the end, we'll go through any questions that we have. So let's get started then. So what's new in Inventor? And this release, the theme has been, there's been 3 kind of key themes. So Autodesk, each release will give an overall outline of what they're trying to theme the product around. So the first instance is that they're looking to improve areas that are customer-driven improvements. So that's ideas that you as customers and us as Autodesk partners have given to them that are using the software day in, day out, that are on the idea station. Okay, if you haven't used the idea station before, I'll point you to it in a little bit as well. But they're trying to act on any kind of major themes that people are asking for. And as I said, one of the big things is giving users a wider array of tools. So connecting all of the workflows, all of the pieces of software that Autodesk have available, and connecting Inventor to your Revits, to your Fusions, to make sure that all the tools, all the wider range of tools that they have are available and have kind of seamless workflows between the two of them. And then finally, looking at kind of compliance, making sure that they're driving towards that kind of final compliant project so that you're meeting any working standards that are available. Just a quick point, if you are installing or have installed the software, just to be aware, they have had a bit of a rebrand on the logo, so don't be alarmed, you are installing the correct software, it's just had a bit of a rebrand on that. So the first thing that I thought we'd go through and speak about is the new home experience. Okay, because there's not too much changed in there, but it is the first thing you'll see, and there's a kind of a noticeable difference when you open up Inventor. So as you can see from the image on the slide, it's now been split down into 2 main panels. And the reason they've done this is to give kind of a cleaner layout, because in the old versions from 2022 and previous releases, the home panel was a bit cluttered. There was a bit kind of duplication on areas. So they've now tried to just simple it down and keep with that kind of consistent theme, or that modernized theme that they're running with the property panels on, to make sure that everything is just aligned and nice and clean and easy and modern to use. So I'm just going to quickly point out all the new areas that are available within there. Okay, so on your panel 1 in the left, you've got all of the standard project details. So you can open up projects, you can switch between projects, obviously if you haven't got any files open. And then just below that, you've got your open and new options within there. Okay, all standard. You can open new templates and everything as with the previous release. At the bottom, we've got our what's new option. Okay, so if you do want a breakdown of all the new tools and all the new features, if you're looking maybe for a specific feature to see if they've released it, then have a look in that what's new link, and that will take you to the Autodesk website. Okay, we've also got the community and help pages, which will take you to things like the idea station. So you can take a look at kind of just some useful links to help you along the way. Now, on the right-hand side, what we've got is our panel 2. Okay, this is where all of our recent documents are going to sit. So the recent documents, again, isn't anything new that's in there, but you've got now 2 different areas. You can set it up as a grid view, and you can also set it up as a list view. Now, this just gives you a bit of alteration between the 2. It allows you to search files a little bit easier. Just gives you a little bit more of a, as I mentioned, just a bit of a cleaner layout when you first open up the product. It does include all of the standard tooltips. Okay, so if you hover over your cursor over any of the icons, it'll give you just a bit of detail on there about what it is, because the majority of tools that were in the previous release of the home panel are still in there. You just might need to have a look at the different location of them. Okay. Just a quick point, you can still turn the home panel off. The reason you would do that is purely to save space. Okay, so you might need to save some slow startup times. So when you load up Inventor, you might be loading up kind of 100 recently used documents, and it just takes a little bit of time just to load that up. So if you go to your application options in the general tab, you can then go in there and turn that off, or you can reduce the amount of recently used documents that you're viewing. Okay, the reason you might do this is you can still pin documents, so you might want to pin documents to your kind of recently used, and then maybe only have a maximum of 10 documents that you're currently working on at that time. So you just got quick access to them. Okay, so let's move into one of the first kind of new features that they've introduced. And just to point out to start with that this is a pre-release of GPU ray tracing. So I'll just quickly explain what it is. So GPU ray tracing, in previous releases, when you were creating your renders or your photorealistic images, it would use the graphics card of the machine that you're using. So it would use the graphics card of the CPU. Okay. With GPU and the new technology that's going into graphics cards, you're now able to use the graphics card to run your renders. Okay, and what this is going to do, it's going to give you higher performance and a better quality of image at the end. Okay, so what it does is it allows the use of any kind of modern graphics card, and I'll come on to the requirements in a second of that. And previously, so from 2022 and previous releases, it used an Autodesk ray tracer, or you may have known it as ART. Okay, what it does now is, because of this new technology in the graphics card, it uses a new path tracing algorithm. And essentially all this means is that it will continually improve the quality of your image. Now, obviously you are going to get to a point where your image to the naked eye will look perfect. But in the old version, it would get to a point and that would be it. Okay, you couldn't continuously improve that. But now with this new path tracing algorithm that it uses, you can continually improve the quality of your renders, depending on obviously how long you're leaving that for. It also utilizes a physically based rendering method, or rendering principles, to mimic realistic lighting and materials. So this doesn't involve any extra work from the Inventor side, only purely in the background. It will try and mimic a more realistic approach. to give you that more kind of photorealism that you're looking to achieve. Okay, it also includes a new noise reduction tool. So I've got a quick video just to show you here of what I mean by this. So if I just play this here, what you can see is when you start up the ray tracing tool, it gives you that grainy effect. Now that grainy effect, obviously if you're creating a long render, will obviously eventually go away. But if you turn the noise reduction tool on, okay, it's going to remove that quite quickly, quite nicely. So it gives you kind of a quicker way of producing a render. Now, overall, the final quality of render is still going to be better, just to point out, when you have the noise reduction tool turned off. This new tool is going to be purely available for if you want to turn it off, okay, and sorry, you want to produce a very quick render and just quickly send it out, okay. So it's a nice way of just not having that initial grainy effect, and you have to sit there waiting for half an hour for it to kind of all the iterations to run through so that all the pixels are covered with the correct image. Okay, so just a couple of extra point with this. As I mentioned, it is a pre-release, so it is still a little bit of a work in progress because of the software just becoming available on the new graphics card. So it is currently only available in the ray tracing environment. It isn't available in Inventor Studio at the minute. I imagine that will be something that they'll look at in future releases. Also, it isn't turned on by default. So don't expect to be running, if you're just running the ray tracing tool, for it to be running in the background. You do need to go into your application options under the hardware tab and make sure that that is turned on. It will also state in the application options whether your graphics card is going to be meeting the relevant or required spec. So what I'll do is I'll just pop the specifications up on screen. You can access these on the Autodesk website, or just take a quick screen grab now. Also, if you do have any questions about whether your graphics card meets the latest spec, then obviously contact us here at Symmetry, contact your account manager. We do have an in-house IT team who'll be able to help us kind of determine whether your machine or graphics card meets the required specifications for the new tool. So moving away from graphics and into just one of the features in the part environment, and we're looking at tolerancing. So what I found an issue with tolerancing in the past is the accessibility of it. Okay, it was always only available in the dimension area. You had to go in and edit it, and that might be in a sketch. So you might have to go and find the sketch and find the dimension that you want to add the tolerance to. So in the 23 release, they've tried to counteract this, and they've put it in quite a good area. They put it in the parameters dialog box. So previously you did have a tolerance column within there, but it would just show the kind of the minimum and the maximum what it was showing of the tolerance. You can now, it gives you access to a little pencil icon, okay, so as you can see on the screen, and you can go in and it brings up the same dialog box that it does at the sketch level, so that you can go in and actually add tolerances. It also gives you a little bit further detail, as you can see in the box, okay, in the cells, about what tolerance you've applied to it. You can also, as I said, poor accessibility, you can now access it from the fillet command, okay, so just an extra area that it's available in. And also, it's now available with unique model states. So model states was the new big release in 2022. So now what you can do is you can create your individual model states and give each model state a different tolerance. And what I quite like about this is you could go in and you could create a maximum tolerance model state and a minimum tolerance to check parts kind of work, configure, and fit together. Without actually having to kind of affect your overall model. It is also available in the edit via spreadsheet option. So you can go in and use Excel's functionality to kind of drag down, copy tolerances from one section to another, rather than having to load up this menu in the parameters each time. Okay, so it makes life just a little bit easier when going through and configuring them. It is also now available when you export and import your XML files. So previously, if you're working where you're copying parameters from one component to another or deriving components in, it wouldn't have any link between one component and another for tolerancing. You'd have to go in and re-add the tolerance values. It now appears in the XML spreadsheet so that you can go in and you can actually add, or it will bring through the tolerance from one part to another. Okay, so the next tool, as I mentioned, we're going to have a look at is the mark command. Now, the mark command isn't going to be for everyone, but it is a new tool that's available in the sheet metal and the part environment. And where it's going to be used is for your laser cutting. Okay, so it's going to be used for laser marking, etching, and engraving. As I say, this tool isn't going to be for everyone, but for the people that are using laser cutting, it's going to be a complete game changer because it's just going to streamline your workflow. It also is configured to your styles and standards. So you can have a complete machine setup and have that globally available for everyone. Obviously, if your styles and standards in your project are pointing to a global location. You've also got your standard Inventor options to export out to a DXF or a DWG, which are kind of more of the commonly used laser cutting file extension types. Okay. And as I say, you can configure it from your styles and standards. So let's just have a quick look at how you would configure it in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this example is rename one of the styles, and I'll just call it 2023 webinar. Okay. And in there, I just need to activate it. I can edit whether I want my sketch to pull through to just the front face, okay, or to the front and back face. I can also choose the font type that I want to pull it through to, and more importantly, the line color and the line weight. So that line color and line weight, when you export it to that DXF option, is going to be what the machine reads as to whether it will etch or whether it engrave on that machine. So let's have a look at how the tool actually works then. So what you're going to do is you're going to first create a sketch like you normally would, and then what you're going to do is select on that can be a text or geometry, okay, and then you can choose on the style that you wish to use and hit OK. At that point, what you would need to do, now you've got your text pulled through, this is a sheet metal component, so I'm going to jump into my flat pattern. Okay, and I'm going to export it as a DXF. So I'm going to right click on the flat pattern, save the copy as. So we're going to take that front face, and then you can see I can export it out using the standard menu. Okay, so it's just going to be a really nice and easy way of creating all your sketches and all your geometry on there to pull through to your laser cutting machine. So as I mentioned, the key features that Autodesk have looked at in this release are the interoperability or the connection between Inventor and their other kind of products. So the first one, and in the 2022 release, there was a center fusion button. And what this allowed you to do was take your Inventor model, send it up to your Fusion team, and then access that Fusion, that product or that model in Fusion. So in this release, they've now updated that and they've gone a step further, as you can now take it into specific environments in Fusion. And again, it just gives you a wider array of tools, especially if you've got the product design and manufacturing collection, as you have access to Fusion and Fusion team, so that you can use all of the software available to you and use even some of the cloud-based software that is available in Fusion 360. So what we've got is buttons or under a new Fusion 360 ribbon. Okay, that's under generative design. Okay, you could send it off for a generative design study. You could send it off for a stress or a simulation study. You've also got the manufacturer environment as well. Okay, so if you want to do things like 3D print, you can send it off once you've got your file, send it off to Fusion, and then use the additive or subtractive methodology or workflows within Fusion. And at the end there, we've got our design option, which is just the standard Send to Fusion button. It's just had a little bit of a rename. So essentially in the background, what you're going to be doing is sending your model off to Fusion. Okay, it will derive the component into a single part file, and then you'll choose a location for that part file to be saved in your Fusion team. Okay, so you'll need to make sure that you have a Fusion team set up prior to this workflow. You can also see at the bottom, if you want to, you can launch Fusion as it opens. Okay, so you can send it off to Fusion Teams, open it up, and it will open it up in a generative design study or in a simulation study, okay, depending on what option that you've chosen in there. So it's just making that link, that seamless link between the two softwares kind of a lot easier to utilize and use. So the next tool that we're going to have a look at, and again, this one's probably gone a little bit under the radar, but it is a very powerful tool when you're working with customers that are using Revit. Maybe you're using that in-house, or maybe that's a third party that you're working with who are designing your kind of Revit buildings and things like that. Okay, so what this allows, and what I'm going to talk through to start with, is the tool from a Revit side. Now, in the previous release of the software, in the 2022 release, I spoke about how you can send Inventor models up to Revit and link them so it's got a live link in the Inventor part or assembly, so that it's got that live connection. This works the other way around. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking Revit models that they've designed in Revit, whether that be a building or a space or anything like that, and you're going to be pulling it into your Inventor model so that you can snap to specific or key areas within the model to make sure that your model is got enough space, you're designing it to the correct features. Okay, so let's look at it from a Revit side. Okay, so what the Revit users would need to do is publish their model. Now, the thing with Revit is obviously the file size is a lot bigger than an Inventor. So what the Revit user is going to need to do is break it down to only the views that the Inventor user needs, or us as Inventor users need to have available. These views can then be converted into a data exchange in something called the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Now, that is one thing that you will require for this workflow. You will need access to the Autodesk Construction Cloud, so you've got the link directly from Inventor. Now, that publishing that individual view is going to save massive time on the Inventor model, because what it's going to do is going to convert that Revit model into something that's usable and geometry that's usable in your Inventor side. Okay, and you only will have the one view that is available, because obviously in Revit you can create different elevations, you can create different views, and you end up with kind of minimum 15-20 views. So you're not going to need all of them in Inventor. You're only going to need that one space. Okay, and as I mentioned, you do need access to the construction cloud. So let's have a look at it from how the Revit users would work. Okay, so what they would do is they would go to their collaborate panel and they would choose the specific views that they want to publish. Okay, so they're going to choose, obviously not all of them because they don't need to, and they're going to choose maybe a few 3D views in there like I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to choose just 3 views here. Okay, and then save that data set. So essentially all that's doing is just creating a set and saving it. What they can then do is just go to the standard file and save as, and they can save it as a cloud model. Now in here, you can choose which project you want to save it to. So that project is going to need to be shared with both obviously the Revit user and the Inventor user so that everyone has access to it like you would in your Fusion team. You can then choose a save location in this cloud-based area, okay, and that will save or export them 3 settings to the cloud. Okay, this is then the cloud, the Autodesk Construction Cloud. What you would need to do from the Revit users would need to go into the model and have a look in the Autodesk viewer, which we'll come on to when we look at the Vault side. Select the view that they want to share with the Inventor user, and then hit them 3 dots and create a data exchange. So this data exchange is going to be the only thing that the Inventor user is going to be able to see when they import their data. Okay, and you can see it's created a new file in that project area. So let's look at it from our side, okay, from an Inventor side, and how we're going to utilize that data then. So what we're able to do is we're then able to download the data, that data exchange, and access it and it'll be live. Okay, so you're then able, if there are any updates to the model, okay, they can then update the model and you can sync it back to the live model that's in there. So it's a live link between Revit and Inventor, which allows you to kind of work alongside them, as well as kind of if you've got a final Revit model. Okay, so to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Collaborate tab, okay, and go to the new data exchange option that's within there. So in there, you can choose the project that you're looking for. Okay, so you can see I'm going to choose the 2023 webinar, which I've just created. And what it's going to do, it's going to bring that model in. Okay, and this is obviously real time. You can see the speed that it's going in at. So you can see it's going to load that in as into kind of a fresh assembly that's in there. And you'll notice in your model browser on the left hand side, you've got the little cloud icon. Okay, and if you right click on the model, you've got to check for updates. So you can actually sync it then, as I mentioned, so that you're working alongside the Revit user. So in there, what you could do then is take that model and constrain your component to it. You can work alongside it and actually kind of bring stuff through by creating components in place or placing in your model into the assembly file itself. Okay, so that's it from an Inventor side. And as I mentioned, we are going to take any questions at the end. So what we're going to move on to now is what's new in the Vault 23 side. And as I said, with the Inventor side, they try to kind of aim it around kind of key areas. And one of the main key areas that they do on every release is look at performance enhancement. And that performance enhancement is just going to allow you to keep kind of on top of the software. It's going to keep continually improving speed, workflows, and everything like that. So you just want to make sure that you're keeping up to date on latest releases. It's also going to change your system requirements. So just a quick point on your system requirements at the minute. It is now accessible for Windows 11. Okay, so you can have Vault installed on a Windows 11 machine as well. And obviously the key thing that we're going to be talking through, excuse me, is the Vault Gateway. So just to make you aware, the logo has changed. So just make sure you are installing the correct product, but it will have a brand update as well. So the first thing that we're going to start with is the Vault client. Okay, and we'll look at some of the smaller features that have gone into there. And as with the Inventor releases, they're starting to modernize the way that the product feels and the kind of the whole experience of the Vault products. So what they've added is a dark and a light theme interface for Vault now, same as they have in Inventor. Okay, but you've also still got the classic theme in Vault. So it's just an extra area, and that'll be under your tools and then options that you can change that in. Just to point out, that is only available in Vault Professional. There's also another new tool in the client, the Customize View. Now, the Customize View isn't a new tool, okay? It's just now available in a few more areas. So the Customize View allows you to sync or set your Vault up so that it's available for or designed to how you want it. So you might have some custom properties that you want to show in your main panel in Vault. Now, the Customize View option is now available in things like change state and change revision. Okay, I won't go through all of them. You can see them up on the screen. But what you can do is you can now right click on the property panels within there and actually go through and customize which properties you want in them specific dialog boxes. And obviously that is per client machine, not as a global level. So the first thing that I'll be changing is adding in the property compliance check to ensure on my change state area. So when I change state of a component in a change of life cycle state, I can see that straight away it's going to fail because my property compliance hasn't been met. Okay, but as I say, you can completely now customize each of these panels to how you want it to look. The next area that we'll have a look at is it from an administration point of view. Okay, so there are some extra administrative tools available to you now. The first one is lifecycle colors. Now, this is a purely visual representation, the same as you have with your file categories. Okay, it just assigns a color to a lifecycle state. So if you go into your lifecycle settings, it will automatically assign you a specific color that is available to you. And you can then choose and change which colors you want for which different life cycles. It will help you if you've got quite a complex life cycle structure, so you can go in and pick on the specific color that you want, and then you've just got a quick visual aid. Now that is under the new property called state glyph. Okay, that isn't in the default view. So you need to go into your customized view on your default if you want to change that globally, so you have that option available. Otherwise, it's still just going to show the name or what lifecycle state that it's in. Okay, the next new tool available is the design file check-in. Now, this is had an improvement. This tool was always available, and if you're not aware of it, it's probably been because it's just been turned on and left there by default. So the reason that you would enforce the restriction of file check-in, okay, is that if you've got, say, an Inventor or an AutoCAD file, you're going to be wanting to check that in for the first time in the CAD add-in to make sure that it keeps all of the relationships. So if you've got a part file linked to it or a drawing file linked to it, to your assembly, or you've got an XREF attached to your AutoCAD file, that it keeps them links together. If you check it in from the Vault client, then it won't keep them links. So majority of time, this tool will have been left on to make sure that the restriction has been enforced, and it will just give you a notification to say that you can't check it in from Vault. So what they've done now is they've now broke it down. So you can now choose this specifically by file type. And one of the key things or the key reasons that you'll be using this is for checking in kind of bulk files. So when you initially create your Vault, or if you're continually checking in files, you might want to bulk upload a batch of files. Now, obviously, if they don't have any links or relationships, you have to individually check them in from the CAD add-in. What you can do now is you can now turn off specific file extension types to make sure that that file extension type is or isn't getting checked in. So it may be that you want to bulk upload a load of AutoCAD 2D files that have got no XREFs, but you still want to continue to check your Inventor assemblies, Inventor part files in from the CAD add-in. So what you would do is you go into this file type restriction and turn off the specific file types. And that's the same for kind of any custom file extensions that you have. So if you're working on any other products, maybe working in Revit or anything else, you can actually put in a user-defined property. So you can see in there, I've put in .test. So I can put any file extension type to make sure that that file isn't getting checked into Vault. Okay, so it just gives you a bit more kind of usability, a bit more flexibility on what's getting checked in and what's not from the Vault client. So just a quick couple of features then from the CAD add-in side, and they've had a bit of an update on the AutoCAD the Vault add-in. So you've now got a couple of extra tools which are available in the standard Vault, in the Vault client, available in AutoCAD. The first one being Show Details. So the Show Details panel gives you things like your history, your uses and where used, your bill of materials, your change orders, okay, and under the tabs, just at the bottom below your kind of main panel. So obviously, if you were using AutoCAD files before, you'd have to open that file up to see maybe where that file is used, if it's got any references to any other files. Now what you can do is you can right click in your, as long as you're logged into Vault, obviously from AutoCAD, you can right click and choose show details on there, and it will give you it as a separate dialog box. Okay. The next one is the Go to Vault folder. So what you can do now is you can actually right click on the file and take you to the file within Vault. Just a quick shortcut tool to save you opening up Vault, the Vault client, navigating through if you've got a complex folder structure, and kind of locating that file and or where it is within your Vault. Okay, so the next one that we're going to have a look at is an actual new tool that's available in Vault, and it's Markups. But to start with, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the Autodesk Viewer, because the Autodesk Viewer was introduced in the 2022.1 release of the software. Okay, just to point out, we will come back to Markups, but they are only available in the Autodesk Viewer. So the Autodesk Viewer is not a replacement, it runs alongside, but you've got the design review software. You've now also got the option to switch it to the Autodesk Viewer, which was previously an online viewer. You've now got it available in your Vault client itself. Okay, so let's have a look at how we can turn that on. So all you're going to do is you're going to go into your tools and then your options, and then under Design Viewer or Autodesk Viewer rather than Design Review, and then you'll still need a visualization file attached, but you can see it gives available just in your Vault client. So if you have 2022.1 and onwards, have a look at it, turn it on, and kind of make sure you get a good feel for it, because I find you a lot more viewing capabilities within there. So you can do a walkthrough, you can pan the model around. It's just a lot easier to use than Design Review. And there's also a couple of extra options. So you can create section views within there, and you can also explode your model. So let's just have a quick look at how this works then. Okay, so the first thing you can see, some of the pan, zoom options, they're just nice and easy. Now, if you haven't got this turned on, you need to obviously make sure you've got the visualization file updated as well. But you can see nice and easy to create some quick measurements in there, and you can delete measurements, you can store them in there so that when you come back to it, you've still got that measurement that you created within there. We can also create section views, and what's quite nice about this is you can see as I let go, it creates a hatch pattern. So again, you could take maybe a quick screenshot within there. And then finally, this is something I think that needs introduced in Inventor, but you can actually explode the model just by dragging this bar along. Okay, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do with that apart from to take a screenshot, but it does give you an idea of how the components are going together, where the components are sitting. So it gives you a quick exploded view as an office user or as a professional user. You can quickly go in and have a view of that. So also one of the tools that comes with the Autodesk Viewer is the markup functionality. Now, the markup functionality is something that isn't available in kind of other competitive softwares. It's quite unique to have this in a data management solution. Okay, and what it does, it allows you to kind of create or spin your model around, select on or find a view of your model, draw a sketch on it, and with some of the tools that are available, and say that this needs to be tweaked or this needs to be changed. Okay, so it's just a complete kind of red line tool that would allow you to go and quickly make notes from directly within the Vault client. What you can do then, you can then save that image either as a file, as an image file, okay, and download that to your local machine. Now that's available from 2022.1 onwards, okay, with the Autodesk Viewer. But in 23, what they've done is they've released something called a markup browsing panel. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to save your model into or save that markup into a browsing panel, and then that will get stored in the specific version in Vault. Okay, not revision, it gets saved in the version, so that you can then access it, and someone in Vault will be able to come and see what the note is, and then obviously action it and make the change by checking the file out and making the change. Okay, so let's have a quick look at how you can add them in then and the functionality. So you can see this is all done from within the Vault browser. So what you're going to do is you're going to spin the model around and go into the markup tool. Okay, you can then choose from any of the options. You can change line color, line style to make it a lot easier to see. You can see in here, I'm just going to put a call out in and say to move this nailed nut back by 10 mil. Okay, I can then save it either as data, which will go into this markup browsing panel here. Okay, or I can save it down as an image. If I save it as data, you can see it then flicks to it. And if I flick to some of the other ones, it rotates the model around, and you can see it gives a nice, quick, easy representation of how your markups are then added. So it is a nice, easy tool. Now that where it says it's stored as data, it is only stored in the Autodesk viewer. There's no other data stored in Vault, so you won't be able to see if someone's added a markup. You will still need to notify them that there are some markups available in that version that they need to be actioned. You can view old markups though. Okay, so if you go back to the history or back through the history of the versions, you can see them, but you won't be able to edit them. Once they're in a historical version, you can only edit. You can only view them markups that have been generated. Okay, this is also the markup browsing panel is only available in Vault Professional as well. So let's have a quick look at how we can view our historical versions. Now, if you're looking at versions, you're going to need to open it up in the viewing window browser. But you can see in this one, I've got the little pencil icon and the little bin icon next to it. If I drag that down, okay, and look at a historical version, jump into the markup panel, you can see the markups that I created in the previous video. Okay, just gives you something to reference back to see if they've been actioned. Okay, so it is quite a nice, easy tool to use and get used to. And it is obviously quite custom, so it's not available in many kind of data management softwares, if any. So it is kind of a game changer to have that functionality within Vault. So the final thing that I'm going to touch on for today is the Vault Gateway. Okay, now the Vault Gateway is probably going to be the most talked about element of the 23 release. We do have some videos out about it on the minute on our LinkedIn page, also on our YouTube channel. Okay, so if you do want to go into any more detail on it, then feel free to take a look there. But the main function of the Vault Gateway is to allow both third-party users and remote workers access to the Vault without being on site and without having a VPN connection set up. Now, this is going to be a bit of a game changer for kind of what's happening at the minute. Obviously, a lot more people are remote working, and trying to set people up to use Vault to work from home securely has been a little bit of a struggle, but obviously we've got rounded by using the VPN connection. But not every company is allowed or can use a VPN connection. This is an alternative way, okay, of getting them people connected into your Vault. Now, it is a secure connection from behind a firewall, okay, and also this goes through an Autodesk cloud service. So the Autodesk cloud service is how it's connected, and it will allow users to kind of configure their own Vault gateway, their own specific URL, and it will then pop that into the login window, which I'll show you in a second. Now, it is all configured through the ADMS console, okay, and it is nice and easy to configure. The one thing I will mention about this is I'd recommend having a conversation with either us or your account manager, okay, to make sure that you know kind of how all your security privileges are set up, and we'll come on to this when we look at the requirements of the new tool and the new functionality. But to configure the gateway, it is actually quite nice and easy. All you're going to be doing is you're going to go into your tools administration in your ADMS console on the server, go into configure, okay, and then you're going to choose the region, okay. So the cloud servers are set in 2 locations, in Dublin and in America. So obviously choose the location that is most appropriate for you. And then you're going to choose your Autodesk account that you want to link it with. And again, I'll come on to requirements of that in a little bit. And then you can just hit configure, okay? And it will then give you a URL link which you can send out to your remote workers, and then they are able to log into Vault securely. So just a couple of things that we found on testing, okay? It does take a little bit of time when configuring, okay? So what you will see when it's connected is it will just say up here, the status of the gateway is connected. Now, when you first configure it, it just says not connected for around about 20 minutes. So be patient. It will probably be less than 20 minutes, but it does have to set up that secure connection. So just be aware that it does take a little bit of time for that to run. Okay. Just a point with it, you can also pause the server. So if you've got people, third parties connecting in, and you only want them to connect in for say an hour, you could set up the configuration, run it, and then afterwards you can pause that. So at that point, no one else can connect in. While it's running, as long as the user has the URL link that you've sent them, and also they'll need a Vault, obviously their standard Vault accounts to log into Vault. So that's where your security privilege and permissions all come into play. They will need either a Vault account or an Autodesk ID account. It doesn't work with Windows authentication, okay, to make sure that they've got they can log into the Vault. Obviously that's all assigned from your ADMS console. Now this also, another positive of it is it does work up to 3 versions back. Now this is starting at the 2022.1 release, so just something to be aware of. It won't work now, but for example, if we're saying 2025 and you've got your gateway configured and you're using Vault 25, someone can connect in to your Vault and access your data from an older version of the software, 3 versions back, okay, so that they could connect in from say 2023. Now this is obviously useful because you don't have to then, the third parties, the remote workers don't have to install a specific version of the software that they have, that you have. It can be from anything up to 3 versions back. So taking a look at the login screen, what will happen is, as you can see here, the server will give the server name, okay? You will just replace your normal server with the URL link. And that URL link will then allow you in if you then have to log in using your username and password. Just a point with the password, it does have to be or have to have a Vault account password. You can't log in with a username with no password, okay? And there are some restrictions to it. I think it's 8 characters and has to have a number and a letter. So you just need to make sure that you've got a Vault account with a Vault password set up. So one thing obviously that is a worry is security permissions. So if you're setting up a gateway, we're running a new service now that will allow us to kind of come in and check that all of your Vault security is configured and set up appropriately for when you start to configure your Vault gateway. Because what you're not going to want to do is set the Vault gateway up and then obviously worry about your security permissions and make them see that this user is actually accessing documents in your Vault that they shouldn't be. So we're running a bit of a service to make sure prior to you setting this up that you have kind of the correct security permissions set up in Vault. We'll go through your kind of folder structure and make sure that certain people aren't able to access the specific areas, and all the permissions for each account is set up correctly. Okay. Now, obviously, there are some requirements with it. Just one thing to point out, this does run in real time. So from the testing that we've done, we haven't noticed any kind of degradation in speed. So I've had it set up on my local machine, and it seems to run just as quick using the gateway as it does using just the Vault server installed on a local machine. So it seems to be really positive in the fact that it is really nice and quick. You're not noticing any kind of downtime in speed when using the gateway. So in terms of requirements, it is a Vault Professional feature, okay? And obviously it does require 2022.1 and onwards. It also requires a fully migrated Knowledge Vault Master database. And also, as I mentioned earlier, you will need to assign an Autodesk account when you configure your gateway, but that needs to be a team administrator. So you need to be an administrator in your Autodesk account, which means you can essentially assign the Vault products to other users. Okay, again, it stops people going in to the server and setting up this gateway just to make sure that you've got full account administration to ensure that you can set that gateway up. It also doesn't require any inbound ports to be opened, only the outbound port of HTTP on port 80. Okay. So obviously there's quite a lot in there. If you are or do have any questions regarding the gateway, then feel free to contact us and contact your account manager. And obviously we'll be happy to help and run through all of your security permissions with you as well. So hopefully I haven't rushed through everything too much. I know there's quite a lot that I've gone through there in both the Inventor and the Vault side. Just a couple of extra points. If you are looking to upgrade, if you've seen any new features, obviously feel free to contact us at Symmetry, and we can help you upgrade your software. Also, just a couple of points on upcoming webinars. So we've got a Sevilla webinar, a Sevilla Visualizer webinar coming up on the 18th of May. And there is also a Sevilla Vault webinar, which you receive invitations for in a couple of weeks' time. And that's going to be planned in for early June. So thank you for listening today, guys, and thank you for attending. If you do have any questions, I'll quickly take a look at the chat window now. But if you do have any questions that you want to contact me personally on, I'll leave my email up at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to drop me an email and we can go from there. So I've got one from Isaac regarding upgrading Inventor and Vault Pro versions. Is it the same as before, server side first and then clients? Yep, so it'll be the same as normal. Upgrade your server side first and then upgrade the clients to match. Ray tracing, can the new graphic system do different refractive index of transparent materials for prisms and lenses? So we'd probably be looking at the Inventor Studio for something that kind of complex. The ray tracing, which the graphics card doesn't include at the minute, it isn't in the Inventor Studio environment. So that would be something that wouldn't be available with the new graphics card, but something that we can maybe look at in the Inventor Studio environment. Okay. I've got another one from George there. Is Inventor 2023 compatible with Windows 11? Yes, it is. You can find all of the system requirements up on the Autodesk website as well. If you just search for Inventor System Requirements 2023 in Google, the first page that will come up will give you all of the system requirements. If not, drop us an email and we can send you a list of all that across. Okay, we do have the dark theme for Vault is actually available in all editions within there. Okay, I've got a question on the Mark tool. Sorry, I'm running out of space on my screen here. Can the Mark tool be used to draw on the sheet metal bend center line? Yeah, so you'll need to pull that through as a sketch Okay, so the mark tool is only available in Sketch. You won't be able to select on the bend lines, but you can obviously put the sketch in on where the bend line is going to be, and then pull that information through. So we've got one, when you add a measurement, will it save automatically for later reference? So it will save it in there. If you obviously delete it out, it will save it again version specific. So you just need to make sure that you're in that specific version. If you change or up-rev the version, then you won't be able to access that measurement tool within there anymore. Does the markup tool work for marking up drawings? Yeah, so it'll be the same. It will use the Autodesk viewer, and you can add markups in there as well. Did I mention the markup feature is not available in Workgroup? We'll have a look at that one. I believe it's only available in Vault Pro at the minute, the new markup functionality. But yeah, if you've got any questions regarding Workgroup, then speak to your account managers here at Symmetry. Okay. Let me just have a quick look at this one. Can a Wacom Syntax stylus be used for doing freehand text sketches and markups in Vault / the viewer? I'll have to double check that one, Robert. Leave that one with me. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure there. I'll double check on that one and get back to you. I'll make a note there. And then I think we've got a final question here. With the bulk upload of files, can you differentiate between AutoCAD DWGs and Inventor DWGs? Again, I'll need to double check that one. Leave that with me, David. Again, I'll make a note of that. I believe there is a difference between the AutoCAD and the Inventor side when you choose it, because it will give you a general selection for the two. So I'm going to half say yes, but leave that with me. And again, I'll take your email address and make sure that we can properly answer that one for you. And I'll take some screenshots and send them over so you've got the correct answer there. Okay, apologies, there's quite a lot of questions there. So if you've got any more questions, feel free to drop me an email. If you want a bit more of a detail on them, then again, drop me an email. But we're probably just running out of time there. So as I say, thank you for attending today, guys. Have a look out for our upcoming webinars, and hopefully I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.